happy today, and this is one of those we are not worthy moments. We are joined by Walter Day, and if you don't know who this person is, like seriously, just like get out of here. I mean, we're here to introduce people. We're here to enrich the gaming community. We want to bring people to the forefront, but this is somebody that you should already know. But we're really happy to have him here. Twin Galaxies. I mean, come on. You should know who this person is. We are honored, truly honored to have this man here with us today. Walter, thanks for coming on our show and talking with us today.
Well, I'm honored, but if you guys truly aren't worthy, then I guess I'm going to hang up right now.
Yeah, right?
No, dude!
Normally when people say that, right, it's like the other person's like, yeah, I'm happy to be here. In this case, it'd be like, yeah, you know what? That's right. You're not worthy. I'm hanging up right now, right?
Well, I'm honored to be on your show. And by the way, I want to start by mentioning, so you have big comic book covers on your wall. So do you guys cover comic books too as part of your beat?
Actually, we actually have done a show about it, but we had a website back in the day called Inverted Paradox, and we actually did like reviews about comics and stuff like that. So we like comic books and stuff as well.
Right.
Yeah, and we talk a lot of comic book theories as well.
My goodness, comic book theory. Sounds pretty
Which is
deep.
basically like just people. We're just inviting people to come in and just do a flame war.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's like, oh, if you think this thing about the superhero, you're wrong, and they're like, no, you might as well be talking about a religion with these people.
Yeah,
So.
people love their points of view. People love their opinions.
Oh yeah.
Well, so you guys are. Yesterday I was talking with Jose, okay, and I was telling him that we've got to make trading cards for both of you. And the reason for that is because what you're doing is important. We are all, you two and me, we're all part of the same generation. That is the first generation that actually gave birth to the video game age. Cyberspace started with us. It's our creation. We were the first people to embrace it and make it come alive and become real. And even though you usually hear just about famous inventors, game designers, or famous business geniuses, really the birth of the cyberspace and video game age, the birth of the esports age, actually is the child of all of ours. We are all together in this. And there are millions and millions of stories that to me are equally as important as the biography of Ralph Baer or the biography of Nolan Bushnell, because it was all of us working together that made this whole phenomena happen. And hundreds of years from now, historians will be inspecting this, examining this whole historical era. And we are all like different colorful threads that, when all woven together, make a big tapestry that has a beautiful, colorful picture on it. But that beautiful, colorful, big picture is made up of all those threads, those colorful threads, intertwining together and working together. And they make that big picture that historians are going to marvel over for who knows how long into the future. So that's why I like what you guys do, think it's extremely important what you do, and feel that you too should be put on the trading cards that I and other people have been working on now for the last 6 years. Well, we've already designed 2,500 cards, approximately, and over 1,500 are in print already. And what they do is they tell the story. They tell the story from the bottom of the feet up to the top of the head, meaning hundreds and hundreds, and eventually thousands and thousands of little stories on the different people who played a role in bringing cyberspace, esports, and the video game age to life. So I congratulate you guys and thank you for what you're doing, because that's a very, very important thing, and I'm so honored to be here on your show with you and just be a part of this, because it's your shows that will be studied by someone someday, because it'll be important historical documentation that's essentially the equivalent of like an old newspaper from past centuries, that telling the story of the history at that time in the words of that time as seen by the people themselves.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that, because one of the things that when Ignacio first came to me and said we want to start Obsolete Gamer, his love of like classic gaming. You know, he played all these old classic computer games back in the day, and he has like all these classic games, all these computer games and stuff. And I was like, wow, you have so much. And I was like, man, I only played like mainly old Mega games, old Super Nintendo games. And when he showed me like so many board games, computer games, I was like, wow, there's so much out there. And when I finally said, you know, let's talk to these people, let's interview these people, I want to tell all these stories. It didn't matter whether they only had a little bit of exposure or some of these people were kind of famous. I want to tell these stories. And as we got to talk to more and more people, I was like, wow, some of these people never got coverage before, never had interviews before. And I said, you know, these people have a story to tell. Some of these people are really interesting, and I just want to be able to tell their stories. And it's really great to hear, you know, hear that you like what we do, and it's really great that, you know, you want to do this for us. We really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate what you're doing, and you know, just 50 years from now, people will be talking in terms of like DOTA 2 and Halo and Call of Duty, all the different iterations of it, all these other things. They'll be saying, oh yeah, that's classic, right? Classic gaming from the perspective of not too far in history from now. Everything that we're familiar with now, which we think is the modern era, is going to be considered classics. In my opinion, we are still in the classics era, even though we're now 44 years into the video game age, since 72 essentially. We'll say 72.
Yeah.
With the arcade titles like Computer Space and Pong and stuff like that. So even though we're 44 years into that age, from the perspective of people in the future, and not that far in the future, we are still in the golden age, because the bedrock is still the foundation is still being laid, the bedrock is still being formed for what's going to come next, because gaming is going to be pretty darn big, amazingly big. I mean, there's essentially 1 billion gamers now, but, you know, not too far from the future, there'll be 5 billion gamers, you know, in a world of 15 billion people or something like that. And gaming will be so part of the culture, so part of the psyche, that all of the stuff we do and all of our adventures will be considered as part of the historical tapestry of the birth of cyberspace, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, I already think of the games that we see out being marketed right now. I already see them as being, you know, part of the historical, repertoire in a sense.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I found it pretty much originally our website, you know, pretty much to chronicle the history of all gaming, not just video games, but all gaming in general, which, you know, goes back in time to ancient times, even with chess and things like that. But you know, it's interesting because we try to basically interview as many people as possible, because, you know, let's look down the line. You said like 50 years. You know, who knows? I might not even be around in 50 years, and, you know, maybe even my grandkids that are probably all gonna be gamers, they're gonna be like, oh my god, it's our grandfather and he's talking about this game that, you know, look at our old video game collection. Like, he used to be like maybe a champion in this game, or, you know, look at all the early champions. It's like looking back maybe like at ancient gladiators, and it's like, oh look, it's Spartacus. So who knows? Who knows how they're gonna see us? But yeah, we're in the ancient times for what's coming, and it's only gonna grow even more. I mean, we already saw video game industry overtook Hollywood as far as how big it is. It's just the beginning.
Yes, just the beginning. Just the beginning. And esports is going to become tremendous. And see, a lot of things are in place now that weren't in place a long time ago. First of all, it's a young kid who wants to become an esports, competitor. He gets a lot more support from his environment, from his peers, and from his family to even consider going in that direction. A generation or so ago, there was tremendous resistance to the idea that, oh, I'm going to grow up and be a professional video game player. And it was difficult because of lack of technology for marketable gaming, marketable contest scenarios to be created. But now with the internet with the internet infrastructure, with connectivity, now you can at a pretty inexpensive level make high quality connections that'll give you the ability to have leagues, to have contests, tournaments, to crown champions. So it's lowered the bar tremendously for people to actually form businesses around cyberspace and esports. I like to think of a parallel with like space exploration. In the old days, it was just NASA and Russia that was doing space development, space exploration development and progress. And then later on, it was a few other places like China and France and Europe. And I think even Brazil or India has a space program, stuff like that. India has a space program. But now, because suddenly the quest for space has segued over to the private business sector, there are now thousands and thousands of companies technological development so that they can be among the first in space. So as a result of that, the evolution of space technology is going 10,000 times faster than it was going during the NASA era, the NASA and the Russia era. And so this is very profound. It's really making quite a breakthrough for for space advancement. And in the same way, the technology for gaming and computers and networking and that kind of infrastructure is going faster and faster and faster because a lot of big, well-funded players have entered the field. And it's not just a few, it's a whole bunch of different groups moving forward the technology for cyberspace, for virtual reality, for online interconnectivity, and just for game design. So it's like an amazing time we're in right now. And it's going to make the games of the past look very primitive, very fast. And then these games they're doing now are going to look very primitive, very fast because technology is going to become mind-boggling. Yeah, I apologize for being so long-winded, but I hope it made sense what I said.
No,
not at all. I mean, in fact, we like that kind of insight because a lot of times what happens is, especially nowadays, you know, people are so quick to just give like a quick little answer that people want to know like the thought process of how things come together. Because so often, you know, people just give you a little bit, like a small drop in the bucket. And sure, you know, you may get a drop of what, you know, you're learning, but nowadays people are going into game design, people are going into esports, people are learning about the gaming industry, so people want to learn this. Yeah, some people may gloss over it and they don't really care, but for those of us who actually want to learn about this, that kind of insight is valuable. And I mean, there's many reasons why I want to talk to you, but one of the reasons why I'm really interested in learning about the process of this, and for instance, you know, there's been talk about, you know, what is going to happen with esports. There was a discussion about, you know, should esports be considered a sport? Should it get the kind of the accolades that it's getting? It's on ESPN. There's millions of people watching it. Obviously, with Twin Galaxies, with the record keeping, with all that you've seen and what you've done, did you foresee like what it was going to become? Did you foresee that there'd be millions of people not only watching it on channels such as Twitch, but it actually showing up on mainstream, being on ESPN? Did you think that it was going to end up being like that as you saw the interest, you know, people packing in arcades, going to tournaments? Did you think that it would turn out to be that mainstream as what you've seen with esports today?
Well, from the very beginning, I believed in video game playing as a professional sport. And that's what I worked for from the very beginning. It was very interesting. When I entered the video game field in 1981, there were different contests that had been held. And almost everywhere at every arcade, everybody in that arcade was trying to beat everybody else in the arcade on the scores, the high scores in the game. Because remember, the modality of that time was high score based, all high score based, because that's all the technology could support. There was no interconnectivity infrastructure in place. So it was all high score based because that was the best thing the technology could offer at that time. And it was brilliant because it encouraged people to play and play and play and play until that they would break their best score, their own personal high score record, and the high score record of anybody else in the arcade. So therefore, there were ongoing, competitions in arcades all over the place. So it was great. And when a person when a person in an arcade was playing a great game and getting a good score, a crowd of people would gather around them and watch them. Everything would stop in the arcade. Everybody would gather around that game, and they'd watch the person make a breakthrough and do the greatest score they ever saw in that game, in that arcade or even in that area. So right then and there, you can see that the spiritual model was already up and running for video game playing to become a spectator sport. That when someone was an expert and they were a top player and they were putting on quite a show, the people would line up to watch it. The people would come and be around the game and be awestruck and inspired and amazed and reverence, and they would watch the person get higher and higher scores. And when he did it, they would cheer, and it would be carried around the arcade on their shoulders. Who knows what would happen at that time? So already, the spiritual birth, or the first step of newborn esports, was already about to be taken. What Twin Galaxies did under my direction is we created a scoreboard that united all the arcades, because we kept a big scoreboard or database, charts, be on a computer at the time, but originally charts and tables on paper of all the high score standings during my time that I did it. Was I think it was well over 300 games by the time we're done, 300 arcade games of that early era. And we would have the tables, the standings, up to maybe the 20th, 30th or 40th or 50th place or more on many different titles. And we would keep track of the records, and then we would make that information available to the arcades. So then what would happen is the arcades all around the world would know what the world record was to beat. So they no longer were in the dark. There now was an organizational infrastructure in place, told them what the world record was that they had to beat. A newspaper magazine would cover world record attempts and world record successes in towns all across the world, because it was known what the established, verified, authenticated world record was on each of these 300 games. So therefore, we established a historical database and precedent of statistics, okay, which was the very first important step. And then the next thing is we created and invented the rules that had to be followed and implemented for each of these 300 games, so that when someone gets a high score in Toledo, Ohio, they'll know that they were the new world record holder if they followed closely the rules and the dip switch settings for their respective game, the same dip switch settings that we require everybody to follow, so that they know when they beat someone from San Diego, they know that they do have genuinely, truthfully, the world record, because they follow the exact same difficulties difficulty settings that the person in Toledo followed. So therefore, what we did was create the rules that everybody had to follow, create the tradition of established verified world records. And what this did essentially was it united all the arcades together around the world, working through Twin Galaxies as the central brain, and it created a worldwide esports arena.
Wow, so you guys had that.
And that was the birth of esports.
And this is at a time where, we don't really have I guess you could say like real-time communication. Like a lot of the time, it would be like you would have to either call them long distance or like send them something through the mail.
Our phone bill became hundreds of dollars every month, and people would send we get lots of mail. There were times when we get 100 phone calls per day, and we get lots of letters every day. We had verification forms that people would fill out, and there'd be signed affidavits, and they had to photograph the score on the screen at the end. It was a nice attempt, but it didn't work because it left us wide open. Arcades would falsify scores because they wanted to get the attention. Arcades began to go out of business. And so arcade owners, not all of them, but some, enough that it made it a problem. The arcade owners would say, how can I bring more attention to my arcade so more people will come to it so that my revenue will go back up, but I won't have to close my doors? So some of them kind of fudged the scores that were being submitted. But then again, even more than the arcade owners being in collusion, there's only a few, but it's enough to make it a problem. The players would start falsifying scores because they wanted the fame. And they knew how easy it was to pull something over on them because they just have all their friends sign the affidavits, you know. So it didn't work that well. Later on, we started having people videotape their entire they pushed on, started the game to the better because it allowed us to document and keep track of what they did and watch to see if they did any illegal tactics or bugs or what was called point leaching. So that was the evolution of that. But the whole thing started, esports all started in the era of the high score game and by uniting all the arcades together with the same rules and the same tradition of world records, which they had to beat as their goal. Essentially what happened is all the arcades, anywhere who wanted to participate, became joined together in a global network, which essentially became a global esports arena. And we did that without the internet. So when I look back on it, I marvel how this all happened.
Can you tell us a little bit about the interactions? Because I always like, I grew up in the arcades too, and I always liked the fact of when you would see the interactions of people playing together in the arcade, because you had like, it was interesting how you had some of like the silent rules, like you'd walk in and you'd put the quarter on the edge of the arcade machine to signify if you wanted to play next, especially on the fighting games. You know, you'd watch and you'd have the champion. You could tell who was really good at a fighting game, things like that. You'd have like that competition without, having fights or anything like that. You'd have like your almost like the silent rivalry. You didn't have to curse at anyone or have anything like that to have that rivalry with someone else in an arcade. Did you see that like in your own arcade, that rivalry without having the kind of vitriol that you will see sometimes in gaming today?
Well, the people today, it's something to do with the internet even more than the gaming. The people today have a lot of there's something pent up. There's some emotional thing that's maybe online, and maybe the food they're eating and the drinks they're drinking and the hours they're keeping. Maybe, in fact, it is the stuff they're drinking, the stuff they're eating. Not the amount of time they're on the console playing, the keyboard playing, and not getting out in sunshine and not playing baseball is affecting people emotionally and their nervous systems. And so a lot of these people have pent up stuff and aggravated stuff going on in their minds and bodies and emotions and what have you. And so they're behaving very naughty online. Okay, so far more than any rivalries that went on back in the early 80s. Things were way more relaxed and more natural and more easygoing way back in the 80s than they are amongst the people who regularly interact with each other online today. And it's probably clearly because of issues going on, health issues that are affecting their psychology, their more than they're realizing, and probably way more than their parents are realizing, because a lot of these people are pretty young. So it was a brotherhood back in the arcades. People were really into playing the games. Back when Twin Galaxies was in its heyday, the top gamers from all over the nation, in fact other countries too, would come there and all participate together and try and beat each other's world records. That's why the media referred to Ottumwa, Iowa, which is the birthplace of esports, which Twin Galaxies was, and also the considered not only the video game capital of the world, but they would call it the Dodge City of video games, because that's where the top gunslingers of the video game era would come and show off their skills and try and beat each other and be the fastest gun in town. So, and there was the Brotherhood. In fact, it was that Brotherhood that got photographed in that famous Life magazine photograph, which I'm sure you must have seen.
Oh, of course.
The famous Life magazine photograph with all the people posed. Oh, yeah. So that's probably the most famous single photograph in the entire video game lexicon. Probably the whole entire video game universe. Probably the most famous single photograph that everybody. I mean, you might recognize a picture of Ralph Baer or Nolan Bushnell. Maybe you won't. Maybe a picture of a scene from Halo, but everybody will recognize that photograph because it's the bedrock of the birth of esports. So anyway,
I have to agree with what you're talking about. I noticed a lot, having grown up in the arcades. You wouldn't like in the kind of things people tell people online. You tell that to somebody in real life, and they'll just punch you.
Oh yeah, sure.
They're basically like they're comforted by the fact that they're long distance away from somebody, and you could just throw a personal insult at a person without even knowing them, without even taking into account the real life considerations of issues that they might be having. But yeah. I know what you're saying. I see a lot of trolling online, and some of it is funny, but some of it is just mean. And I'm thinking, like, what kind of a psychopath is behind the keyboard? Like, what's wrong with them? They have to have some sort of either a mental issue or some other physical problem. But instead of, like, maybe it's like a health issue that they can't resolve. But instead of, like, going and doing something positive with their life, they're just coming online and just picking fights with people.
Yeah, and a lot of people, a lot of these young people, they've grown up in an unreal environment where they think they're not accountable for how they behave.
Well, yeah, and I mean, on top of that,
if someone who's truly
think about this. Back in the old days, I remember. I mean, there's less tolerance now for violence, but at the same time, whereas, like, let's say you would go out to play with kids in the neighborhood, and if you were just being a jerk, people would be like, okay, they would push you or something, and it's like, okay, I don't want to be pushed. I guess I'm gonna stop being like that. Since there's not that aspect anymore, I guess all that build-up anger, they're coming online to vent it or something.
Yeah, it's got to be that.
And a lack of interaction. At least at the arcades, you could say that you were playing games or whatever, but you still had that interaction where you would go and you would meet people, and you would go and play. And even when I would go and play games like the early Street Fighters, Mortal Kombat, things like that, you would meet people and you'd say, "Oh, how did you do that?" And maybe once in a while you would get that person who may not want to talk or tell you their secrets, but most of the people would be like, "Oh, I'll show you how I did this fatality. I'll show you how I did this combo. Oh, I'll show you how to play this game." At least they'd be more talkative and teach you something. And when you went back to the arcade, they'd actually be like, "Okay, I'll play you again. I'll show you something." Whereas nowadays, people don't want to do that. Same thing with, cheating or doing things like that. People didn't want to cheat to win or do something like that. People actually cared about their reputation in an arcade. They had more of a pride in the gaming. Now, you still have some of that in gaming, people who want to do esports, build up their name, but you also have the other side of gaming that you don't have that. And I noticed that especially in world records, like you talked to, Walter, that people wanted to build up their name and they cared about having that where they cared about their records, but then you also had people who want to falsify things because they hope to get that, unrecognized, unearned fame.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Well, it's going to be interesting to see how this all pans out, because a tremendous amount of money is going to be brought into this field. So that You know, when over the years, when someone would stand up and say, "I am the best person in the world on this game," really what it amounts to is that they're actually the best person in the world on that game amongst that just small group of people who are playing that game. There's lots and lots of, there's always, you've heard the idea about there's always a faster gun.
Right.
So it's kind of funny. Back in the early 70s, I think it was, Russia, at the height of the Cold War, decided that they wanted to show America up in America's favorite game at that time, which was baseball. I guess it's the NFL now, but at that time it was still baseball was the American pastime. So Russia started having whole tryouts for baseball players, and all of these farm boys were coming in for tryouts. Some of these farm boys who came in from the farms, they were better than, they was as good, if maybe even better than some of the greatest American baseball. And the point that I'm leading up to with this little tale is that when someone's the best, it really means that they're the best amongst those people who are bothering to play the game. And that out there are other people who would be better, but they just don't have the interest or the desire or the opportunity to become baseball players or to become, Call of Duty or DOTA 2 players or what have you, League of Legends players. They just don't have the desire, the interest, or the opportunity, but they would have been better. So who is really the best in the world at any given time? Well, I guess the person who bothers to show up. But other than that, there's always someone who's a faster gun. And so I've always realized that there's people out there, some Ukrainian guy off the farm would probably be the best League of Legends player, or who knows how it works. But I think you see the point I'm getting at is that it's going to be interesting. And the reason I brought this up as a little story is now with the super amount of money that's going to get transfused into the cyberspace esports arena, it's going to wave flags in front of more and more and more people. And the value of being an esports competitor is going to get amped up so high that all sorts of people are going to come out of the woodwork who are going to come and try to become professional esports players. And a lot of these people will be incredibly good, in fact, probably far better than that current crop of people who are presently playing a lot of the games. Just like in the UFC. The people who were the stars of the UFC like 8 and 10 years ago, they probably couldn't stand up against some of the top players. You've seen UFC, of course.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, well, what it is they've had to raise the bar so much in terms of physical conditioning. I haven't watched UFC in a few years, but I know that it's been a progressive trend of raising the bar in terms of conditioning, heart cardio, flexibility, and then employing all sorts of different kinds of defenses and objective striking poses or what have you. So it's been an incredible increase in the skill set and the strength and the stamina for the modern UFC player that's far above and beyond the players, the gamers, rather the fighters a few years ago. And that applies to the gamers too. The gamers are going to be smarter, clearer, faster, and they're going to be incredible. And that's probably the future of esports. It's going to attract some people who are truly very athletically, have tremendous athletic prowess. And because, being an esports competitor means that you have to have good eye-hand coordination, you have to have fast reaction time, and you have to have mind-body coordination. And just with that clarity of thinking, you'll be able to react faster and recognize what to do quicker and more comprehensively. So there's a lot of there's a lot of skill sets you need just as part of your DNA makeup to be a great athlete in any field, including the esports field.
Yeah, it's gonna become almost like think of it like boxing. I mean, look at how it started out a long time ago, and now it's like think about how many doctors they have on staff.
Yeah.
For the boxer. Even think of like a Formula One team. They have like 3 doctors just in case the guy has a headache to get rid of the headache as soon as the guy does a pit stop. it'll become something like that eventually.
I never thought of that. When drivers pull into the pit stop, they have headaches sometimes.
Oh yeah, just
Yeah,
from driving
and
so long or dehydration. They have it's not just water they're drinking anymore. I thought it was just water that they drink. They have special formulas now for some of the drivers. I heard about that for
Oh, that's
NASCAR
not.
even.
I'll bet so. I never thought of that, but I'll bet you're absolutely right. They have to have because the brain is under so much stress for the 500 miles or whatever it is. So amazing.
I mean, think about this, because I could tell you, I used to race a lot when I was younger, and one time I went with a couple of friends of mine, and I was like, man, I'm so good, right? I'm so freaking good. So I went with a friend of mine that's a Brazilian guy, and he brought a friend of his that doesn't even race cars. The guy races super bikes that go like 220 miles per hour, and he was like the number 2 guy in Brazil. He was not the top champion, but he was number 2. And the guy's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go with you guys just for fun." So we went to this go-kart place that was like a go-kart place where the go-karts go 70 miles per hour, and it
Wow.
was indoors on top of that. So just imagine how quickly you have to press that brake before you slam into that wall at 70 miles per hour. So I get on there and I'm like, well, whatever. This guy, he's just going for fun. But I'm like, I'm gonna try so hard. I tried so hard that like my entire body was tense. Just doing it one time, I had to, like pull the muscle even. And this guy just kept lapping me. And he's just laughing. He's like, "Hey, what's up?" When he's passing me, and I'm like, man, you think you're the best, but there's a guy that's just
That's what
genetically superior. He's a professional, and he's just having fun with me.
That's how I feel
that's
when
what
I
I
play
mean.
online.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
A
what I
lot
mean.
of it applies to video games. It's like, oh, I'm the world champion. Uh huh.
That's what I mean. It's in people's DNA.
Oh yeah.
Because top champions, you just won't be able to figure out how to do it, but it's just right in their makeup. They're just going to be able to do it better, faster, smarter, easier, and make it look like there's no difficulty to it. So that's amazing. That's the way it is with people who have superior DNA. It's just automatic for them. Just happens like second nature.
Now there are
Yeah,
some.
like,
I was gonna say that.
Let me tell you a quick story, really fast. That's kind of funny. One of my friends, Ramiro, we basically stopped playing fighting games because he would ruin every fighting game. Like
He would win. He would win. He would beat you in every fighting game.
win just by doing just a standard punch, just
that's
50
amazing.
times, and just destroy everybody. So we're never playing fighting games when he's around because we didn't even say that he would ruin them. We just his name's Ramiro, so we would just be like he Ramiro's them. Like that's it. Like he destroyed the game. He took all the fun out of everybody else that was there. Well, a couple of years back, he used to be in the U.S. Navy and he was stationed in Japan. And he's like, man, I haven't played video games in a while, but let me go to the arcade. And I'm a little bit rusty. So like he went in there, he played for 2 hours. He used to play a lot of Street Fighter, and he's like, okay, cool, I got my skills back. He pulls a little girl pulls up to the arcade machine, a 7-year-old little Japanese girl, all cute and everything, and she just puts in the coin, and she like annihilates him, gets like perfects on every match, and he's like, no, she can't beat me. He kept putting in money. She just kept annihilating him, and it's almost like the same thing. It's like, man, I'm so good, and it's like, oh my god, the little girl just beat me.
That's a great story. I love that story. That's a great story. That's a great story.
And it happens, it happens a lot. Like, even if you're really good, I mean, look at it in sports.
Uh-huh.
You could be the number 1 Formula 1 guy. You could be the number 1 soccer guy. You could be the number 1 basketball guy. We're getting older. You can't beat nature. We're going to get slightly slower, and eventually we're going to get slower. I mean, that's sort of like what you see even in like American football. These people that can't play anymore, now they're coaches. They still have the strategy up in their mind. They don't have the body to compete anymore, but if you have the strategy, you could help the new champion become world champion.
So are you guys Dolphins fans?
I'm kind of, but they've been so terrible for so long. It's kind of hard.
Yeah, sort of.
So when's the last time the Dolphins have done anything big? They haven't
Yeah.
been to the, they haven't been to the Super Bowl in decades, have they?
Since,
Let me check my history books.
Yeah.
Have they been to the Super Bowl in your lifetime?
No.
They haven't been to the Super Bowl during your lifetime, have they?
No.
I don't think so.
No.
Okay.
No.
So I grew up in Boston area, so you can imagine I'm a Patriots fan.
Oh, see now that's it. This interview's over.
I hope that does.
What?
I hope that doesn't ruin our friendship.
Yeah, nah, we can't be friends anymore.
It's fine.
It's fine for him. He's not a sports fan.
Yeah. So I was almost going to go. I was almost going to go to a what is it? I was going to go to a Marlins game when I was down there in a few days. But are you guys going to come to the? Are you guys going to come to the arcade night? Oh, do you know what I'm talking about when you say arcade night?
No.
The thing on Thursday?
Okay, on Thursday, up in Orlando, we're going to be doing, of course, the the movie premiere, which everybody should come to, of course. You guys are going to be there, I hope.
Yeah.
And,
I'm going.
Okay, that's going to be on Thursday night. But the next night, on Friday night, in Fort Lauderdale, which is within reaching distance for you guys,
Yeah.
there's something called Retro Arcade Night. And me and Billy Mitchell and some other people are going to be there, and we're going to just have a big event there. Retro Arcade Night. Now that I realize this hasn't been brought to your attention, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you the link, and maybe you can advertise it. And maybe people who watch your show, if you actually have it up in time. I don't know how many days it takes for you guys to get your show together, but people should come to Retro Arcade Night. Now, I'm not connected to organizing it, so I'm not sure. I must be kind of weird. I keep going in and out of the thing, don't I? So I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many people. I'm not sure if they charge money or anything to get in. I think people do pay admission, but it's not very much. I think it might be $5 or something like that.
Okay.
But it's
Oh,
in
well,
Fort
don't worry.
Lauderdale.
You can send me the link, and I'll distribute it. I'm even friends with the guy that has the biggest local arcade here in Miami.
Well, who's that?
And Rick, I forgot his last name, but he owns Arcade Odyssey. I don't know if you heard of Arcade Odyssey.
I've met him. I think I met him at the gaming event that was in I met him at the gaming event that put on by Marcel's gaming event.
With the camera movements
You know
doing,
Marcel, don't
it
you?
looks like Walter is doing a
The Ape
music
Show?
video.
Oh yeah. Well, that's good. Well, actually, I'm in my office, and I realized there were a couple of things that had to get done during this time frame, so I started moving around the office. So I apologize.
Oh, no,
Yeah, don't worry.
it looks cool actually.
Yeah, it looks
Okay,
like
well,
you have a
that
GoPro camera with like
that's great.
one of those sticks.
Yeah. Well, I don't have that, but I must be looking pretty. That's interesting. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to send you guys the link so you guys can invite everybody to come to Retro Arcade Night, because what it is, it's a place, I think it's got like 60, 70 old arcade games.
Oh,
And
nice.
I and Billy Mitchell will be there, and some other people, and we're going to celebrate. It's from 6 to midnight, I guess, on Friday night. So this is the next
cool.
night after the movie premiere.
How cool is
Yeah, that's
Billy
really
Mitchell?
awesome.
Right after the movie.
How cool
That's
is
really
Billy
awesome.
Mitchell?
And it would be a lot of fun to have you guys be there.
That'd be sweet.
Wait, say it again, Jose.
How cool is Billy Mitchell?
I'm sorry. Hold on a second. Say it again.
How cool is Billy Mitchell?
Well, up in the mountains, the air's cooler, and Billy is so tall. I think it snows on top of his hair. So I think that he might be cool up there. So you'll get to meet Billy, and you got to come, and you got to come because you'll do a group picture. You and I and Billy, and you guys and me and Billy and some of the other people do a group picture together. And Besides, maybe we can do your photographs there at that time for your trading card. Maybe.
Okay.
If you guys don't have already preferential photos that you're thinking of, which would be appropriate for your...
Like professional looking ones, not me like going like.
Oh, no, that's the one we want. You're going, yeah, that's the best.
Oh,
one.
okay, so that just find any picture
Okay.
of me on Facebook. They're all basically like me going.
Wait,
You know.
do I have to be with Ignacio in the picture? Because I look better without Ignacio next to me.
No,
Actually,
you guys are gonna have individual cards.
Oh, okay, that's good because I look better by myself.
when I used to work back in the old days when I first met Jose, we used to work at the computer company Alienware, and there's a picture that somebody took of me because a lot of the time he was basically on my way to the bathroom, so I would be like, "Excuse me, get out of the way." And sometimes I would just sneak up to him and just like put my head on his shoulder, and he's like, "Oh God!" Like
He tortured
so
me.
somebody took a picture of me that basically I'm looking at him like if I'm gonna hurt him, and he's like, "Don't hurt me." So he just opened up his legs, and somebody took a picture of me just looking down, and it looks so creepy. But it's up on there on the internet.
It's bad.
For a while.
He was bad to me. He tortured me a lot.
It looks disturbing though, but
Well,
let's not use that one.
Yeah, no.
so what do you guys like in movies? What do you watch?
Oh my God, I watch everything.
He watches he watches a lot of weird movies, and then he'll invite me over to his house, and he'll say, "I have this really interesting movie," but it's really a movie that will just drain the brain cells out of my head. And yeah.
Like I watch a lot of really good stuff.
Tell
Like,
him
pretty
about
much-
Deathbed. That if you want to destroy the
Oh
interview,
my God, you
tell
want
him
me to
about
talk
the-
about Deathbed?
Yeah, tell him about the movie called Deathbed.
We have all day to talk about it.
No,
because-
don't tell him all of it because you'll kill him, and we don't want to be accused of destroying the man. But you know.
Okay, Deathbed is it's a horrible movie that I found because of the comedian Pan Oswald was mentioning it, and the way he promoted the movie, he was saying that if somebody made Deathbed, anybody can make a movie. So I'm like, okay, I have to see it. But it's so, I mean, it's not the worst movie I've ever seen, but it's crazy enough that there's a scene where these two Italian mobsters are playing poker on a bed, and then one of them picks up, like one of the cards, and it has like a skull on it, and he's like, what the hell is this? He picks up the next one, he's like, you're dead. And he immediately takes out a revolver, starts shooting the bed that they're laying on, and then the bed starts eating him. And then the other gangster, instead of running for his life, his friend just got eaten, then picks up the bed and then starts shooting it, because, in his mind, he's not gonna get eaten. So it's that kind of a movie. It's like a B grade,
B.
3 a.m. Albay represents.
It's like a Z. It's a bed that eats. It's a bed that kills people. That's what the movie's about. And this is what he invites me over to see. So that's the kind of movies he likes.
Well, that's part of the kind of movies that I like.
So do you like science fiction?
Oh yeah. Of course.
Oh yeah.
So what was your favorite science fiction movie the last 5 years? Are you Star Wars guys? Or are you Avatar guys? Or are you?
I hated Avatar, and I liked District 9.
District 9 was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
District 9 was incredibly creative.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be making District 10, but they've been saying that for the past 4 years.
I wondered if they were going to do a sequel.
They're supposed to, but instead they made Elysium that made bad money.
Elysium, well, that was the one where
Matt
was
Damon.
Matt Damon, okay.
Yeah, and it also had
So,
the same. The main guy from District 9
District 9, yeah.
was kind of like the bad guy.
Yeah, I recognized him. So what do you guys think of Edge of Tomorrow?
It's a really fun movie.
I liked
For
it,
me.
but it's weird. It's like that, and what was the other Tom Cruise one before that?
Minority Report, maybe?
No, the one that had Morgan Freeman.
Oblivion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird because you know what's strange about that? As much as I appreciate them having those sci-fi movies, doesn't that seem like that could have easily been like almost one that you could see on TV. I mean, it was big budget, but the story does seem like something you can almost see on Outer Limits, but they needed to have a big star to justify it being made. Because I really think that like a Twilight Zone, Outer Limits should be on television, maybe made by Netflix or Hulu or even Amazon. But nowadays, because the way television is, they won't put that on regular TV. But I really wish those shows would maybe be made by Netflix. Like, I think we still need that kind of sci-fi in our lives, but it seems like sci-fi only will do well on those platforms. Because think about it, the best sci-fi is on AMC. I like Man in the High Castle on Amazon. You know, you don't see that on regular TV anymore. You have to go to those platforms to find good sci-fi.
So how many episodes of Man on the High Castle have you watched?
Whole season for me.
How many?
I watched all of it.
So it's 2 seasons so far, or 1 season, or what?
No, only one.
One season.
Okay, so I watched the first episode, and for some reason I got a little bored with it, so I didn't watch any more.
Well,
It was a very creative attempt to tell a good story. I remember Man.
I read the book and they changed some stuff, so I kind of didn't like that.
I remember when the book came out in 1963. That's how old I am. Because I'm a science, sort of a science fiction historian.
Oh, nice.
I remember. I'm segueing to another one now. I remember owning the magazine that had the cover story on it called "We Can Remember It for You Wholesale."
Yes.
Like I think it was in '66 or '67.
You're talking about Total Recall, basically. Well,
Total Recall.
Story for Total Recall.
Yeah, We Can Remember It for You Wholesale. That's the short story, the novella I read back in like '66, and then it later became Total Recall. I remember reading back when it was the cover story. I had the magazine. I read the magazine for Do Androids Dream of Electronic Sheep? I still remember reading that, and of course that became Blade Runner.
Yeah.
I still remember Minority Report. All these things way back when they were just brand new. And Ender's Game came out as a short story in 1978. You know, long before it became the monument it is now.
Have you seen the movie they made of A Scanner Darkly? It's kind of like a weird movie because it was the guy that made the movie Waking Life that did it, and he used the same technique that movie has, where they basically get a real life video and then they do kind of like this weird Photoshop thing on it where it looks like a cartoon drawing.
No, I don't know if I've seen A Scanner Darkly. Does the guy's head explode at the end of the movie?
Do you want me to spoil it?
No spoilers.
I can't remember. All I remember is that there was a story way back in the 50s by Cordwainer Smith called Scanners Live in Vain. And I don't know if it's supposed to be the same story or not.
Oh, no, that's, well, that got remade as the movie Scanners. With, what's the name of the guy from the show V? The badass guy?
Oh yeah. Damn.
The guy that's in Total Recall, the bad guy, sort of.
V is in Vendetta?
No, V the 80s miniseries of the Alien Invaders.
Yeah, the sci-fi one. I can't.
I never saw that. I'm sort of aware.
Michael Ironside is
yeah.
Michael Ironside.
I don't know him. Okay.
Oh man,
if you like sci-fi, you should watch V. They basically
you would like V.
They made 2 movies like V and then V, the Revenge, or V the Resistance. And
then,
they remade it later.
Then they made like a little mini series that wasn't that good, and that ended it.
Wow.
It's
the reason I brought up The Edge of Tomorrow is because they announced in the news, I think it was yesterday or the day before, that they're making a sequel to it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they're making the sequel to that, and they're also making the sequel to Blade, or the prequel, or something with Blade Runner.
Oh, I didn't know that. And it looks like they're coming out with another Independence Day.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's about to come out anytime. I think in a month or 2.
Oh, is it that close? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I went to Denny's yesterday, and they were actually advertising it on the placemat already. So.
Oh, that's interesting.
Are you a Star Trek fan?
I didn't watch Star Trek when I was a kid. All those original ones from Gene Roddenberry, I never saw. I think I probably only saw one Star Trek episode. I just didn't get into Star Trek. But the more recent movies have been really, really good. Tremendous movies.
Oh, yeah.
The new reboot.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun.
The new Remus Pine and Zachary Quinto and stuff, those are really good.
They're coming out with a new series in 2017 too.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
TV?
Yeah.
Like on cable or satellite or something?
Apparently, the latest word I heard was CBS is planning to launch their own web channel, kind of like a Netflix thing, and they're going to put it on there. So we'll see how that goes.
Wow.
Well,
that sounds big.
It's like you were saying, Jose. Yeah, they should. A lot of the sci-fi stuff should just pretty much, if they don't think it's gonna be like popular on regular TV, it'll do well online. Because most people that are into science fiction are into technology things, and most people that are into technology things already stream video.
Yeah,
So,
and I think that something like Twilight Zone and Outer Limits would do good, where someone can binge watch it if they want, you know.
oh yeah.
There's one thing I wanted to ask, because, you know, with people talking about like esports, you know, going and watching like those big tournaments on Twitch and stuff, something like that. You know, back in '83 when you guys had the first televised international tournament with That's Incredible, can you tell us about what that experience was like, having, you know, that first televised tournament?
Well, it was really interesting because the worldwide gaming culture has grown so huge that there's people on the periphery who have never heard of twin galaxies, who have never heard of all the history that's connected to twin galaxies and the birth of esports, simply because the universe, the video game universe, has become so huge and so sprawling. Just like the universe itself, astronomers trying to map out the universe. There's just too much to really map out, and it'll take them thousands of years to really kind of like inspect every part of the universe through their telescopes. So the reason I'm bringing out my answer this way is because at the time that the That's Incredible Championship happened at Twin Galaxies in January 1983, the video game industry was big. It was worth like a $6 billion annual industry, and Twin Galaxies was literally the end-all and be-all center of all gaming for all gamers. And nowadays, Twin Galaxies, even though it's super important and its history is extremely important, it's just one of thousands and thousands of initiatives that are going on out there. And just like television just used to be 3 networks. I mean, back in the old days when I was a kid, you watch ABC, CBS, or NBC. And then sometimes in a big city, there might be an independent station in LA, an independent station in Chicago, so forth and so on. So, but now satellite and cable gives you thousands of channels to choose from. And easily 100 of them are serious contenders that actually. So back in the old days, we were the center of the universe. All roads led to Twin Galaxies. So it was quite a heady trip, quite an amazing experience to have all the eyes of the gamers, those who were able to learn about it happening. Their eyes were on Twin Galaxies and the big championship with That's Incredible in Ottumwa, Iowa. So it was a very miraculous experience because Twin Galaxies in Ottumwa, Iowa is the video game capital of the world with a toast of the town. So it was quite a fun thing to go through. Now Twin Galaxies does even more. However, because of the stature of the huge size of the global video game culture, that, you know, there's just thousands of initiatives on, and it's possible for a person to not hear of the existence of 990 of those other 1,000 initiatives that are happening. So it's not as much being the center of attention anymore, but Twin Galaxies still is the historical database for the history of competitive gaming. And that's why the Guinness World Record book recognizes Twin Galaxies as the sole verifier of authenticated, genuine world record high scores.
Now, can you tell us a little bit? Because I mean, there's some people that saw like when you started when you did like the handover, I guess, with Jace Hall and seeing the Twin Galaxies on Twitch TV. Can you talk a little bit to that?
Oh, Jace Hall is a very bright person. I'm very impressed with him. And he has a vision. There's some of the things he's doing that I wouldn't do exactly that way myself. Uh, but he seems to have the thing I would have done different is I would have had more and more outside projects going on with contests physically here, contests physically there. And what he's doing is focusing on developing the community through its online infrastructure, which he seems to be doing quite nicely and advancing it, progressing it. But he's very smart and very devoted to the game at making his online venue become hopefully a home for a growing community. So he's expanding his base of people who appreciate what he's doing quite rapidly, and Twin Galaxies is becoming a big and big and big and bigger player in the world of gaming today. So I'm very impressed with the community that's cropped up around Jace to help him move all his initiatives forward. So he's now had Twin Galaxies for 2 years and 2 months, and I'm very appreciative of him putting his intelligence and his resources behind the Twin Galaxies brand and giving it new life and helping it expand and spread its sphere of influence even more and more.
How hard is it dealing with all those cards? Because before, when you showed us all those trading cards, I mean, that was a lot of boxes. I mean, I mean, does it get crazy having to sort and go through all those cards, man? Because I mean, man, I didn't think. I mean, when you told me about how many that you guys have, I was like, wow, that's a lot. But then when you took us through and you showed us all that, that's a crazy amount of boxes.
Okay, now, you didn't record it last time, though, did you?
No, I didn't get it at that time. No.
Okay. Tell your viewers, okay, all the viewers now should fasten the seatbelts because here we go. We're going to start with the sorting room that's in my kitchen right now. I've messed up my house because I've been sorting in the kitchen because the trading card room didn't have correct normal level of heat. So I would freeze if I did all the work down there. So here's what the kitchen looks like. Can you hear my voice?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's what the table looks like. The table shows, see all these things? I'm sorting 156 sets of 220,
Wow.
225 cards each. Okay? Can you see it okay?
Yeah.
Can you see it okay?
Wow, yeah.
And then over here on the shelves, are cards that I'm resorting to, that I'm putting into sets.
That is
Okay.
crazy.
Oh my
Okay.
god.
Okay, now we're going to walk out. We're going to walk out into the hallway, and this is the famous hallway that you've seen in The King of Kong and Chasing Ghosts, and soon Man vs. Snake, which you two guys and all your viewers are going to come and see on Thursday night in Orlando. Okay, these are the famous stairs that were in King of Kong and Chasing Ghosts and other documentaries. And here is the trading card room. You guys still with me? Can you
Yep.
see it?
Oh my god.
Okay,
Woo.
see this?
Wow.
Wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of stuff.
Trading.
That's crazy.
Oh my god.
I think it froze because there's so many cards.
Yeah, too much bandwidth usage.
Are you still there?
Yeah,
Yeah, we're here.
Is it
It
still
just
working?
froze a little bit.
yeah, it
It
froze a little bit, but it came back. Holy cow. Oh wow, look at that. I can't believe it's that many.
Jesus.
There's there's on television.
It's cutting off a little bit, Walter.
Man, that's gotta be crazy to have to sort all those cards.
Oh my god. Walter, are you there? I think he's getting too far away from the router.
And here's the Greg. What'd you say?
I think you're getting a little bit too far away
You're
from
still
the
there?
router. It's cutting off some. Okay, now I can see better.
Oh wow. Oh wow, look at that.
Oh my god.
Just shelves of boxes. Oh man, and
Oh,
binders too.
that's a lot of cards.
Yeah.
Still there?
Yep, still
Yeah,
here.
we're here.
Okay. Okay. So that's it. Then
Oh
there's
my
over
God.
here and then down this way too. And look at all that.
Wow.
Wow.
Oh my goodness, look at that.
You have more stuff than I had in my old warehouse.
Yeah.
My god.
Okay. So when you guys, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you guys come to Orlando, I'm going to have a bag of trading cards for each of you as a gift.
Awesome.
Oh man, thank
I'm
you.
going back there. Now what we got to do is I actually have to go to an appointment soon. So what
Okay.
we should do is focus on each one of you should maybe have your most important question. And then we can always be on another show, and you can bring your equipment with you because when we are all at the theater on Thursday
Yeah.
night, we can do a little talk there, and you can record me and Billy and some other people there. Because it's always a pleasure and honor to appear on Obsolete Gamer.
Yeah, man.
Obsolete. Well, you know, I don't know if it's well, I guess my most important question is when you focused on your music, I want to know about that because if someone steps away from something, especially like Twin Galaxies, when you know that you cared so much about to do some music. I mean, can you tell us just a little bit quickly about your music and what kind of music that you focused on?
Okay, in 1985, I was dating this gorgeous woman who one night suddenly says, "Walter, I've secretly been dating a friend of yours."
Whoa.
So I was brokenhearted and we broke up that night, of course. But about 10 days after we broke up, I was going through tremendous heartache. Suddenly I started hearing music play inside my head and my heart, inside my emotional area in the chest here. I started hearing music play and started hearing lyrics and I started writing it all down. It's almost like a radio had been turned on inside my brain or inside my heart. I started listening to music, but it wasn't like listening to the radio, but it was all songs that had never been written. So I started writing them down, and I've had the desire to go out and actually produce those and make them. And it's been my desire to do, and it's my heart's desire now to have that as my last big artistic expression. So, and it's very, very challenging. Even though a lot of the lyrics for the songs are written, it's almost like I got writer's block, where I have to really focus on it and stop doing almost everything else so that I complete this. So it's almost like I'm going to have to become even more creative and even more intelligent, far more intelligent, far more creative than I am right now, to whatever degree I am right now. And so it's going to be a big challenge, and who knows if I can pull it off, but if I do pull it off and I can produce the songs to the same way I hear them, in the same way that I hear them, I think that they'll be very enjoyable and people will be pleased to hear them. So it's a huge challenge, and it's something that I'm going to have to rise up to the occasion and be a lot smarter and a lot more creative than I definitely am now for me to pull off this music. But for me to do this, I have to completely kind of like divest myself of other things and focus mainly on this music. And so I'm at the point where I'm about to do that, and I hope everybody wishes me luck, because it's really going to make me have to become better because of the level of challenge to get that music out on the level that I hear it. Because I can hear it, but to make it sound like I hear it is a lot of learning of computer stuff and a lot of work with people who are musical arrangers. So anyway, that's what happens next, I hope.
Awesome.
Yeah, like it's gonna require a certain level of you, like almost like centering yourself, and just
Absolutely. Good word.
Just-
I have to center and focus.
It's almost, I don't know if you remember, I know you probably do since you like a lot of science fiction. It's almost like the movie Altered States, that the guy had to enter the state of just being at home with himself and ignoring the whole world. You have to almost make like the isolation booth, but you have to do it in your own mind to be able to concentrate to that level.
Yeah, well, we're gonna make a science fiction movie on my music called Waltered States.
Nice.
Let's do it.
Well, Walter, thanks. I mean, so much for coming on and talking with us, and we will see you in Orlando on Thursday.
Yeah. So everybody who's viewing this, I don't know if you get to show this or post this before Thursday.
Oh, we will.
But Thursday, April 14th,
Oh, yeah.
we're going to be in Orlando at the Florida Film Festival for Thursday night. The film starts at 9:30 p.m., so you're going to be up late. But it does give you enough time to get there. If you get out of work at 5, you can be there in Orlando in time for the 9:30 screening. And it's going to be so much fun. Billy Mitchell and I will be the hosts and welcome you to see the movie called Man vs. Snake, which is truly going to be a big hit, especially for the gamers. So please come, and you guys come, because we're going to do photographs of you, and we'll just talk about what should be on your trading card, and I'll have a whole pile of trading cards for you guys as a gift.
Awesome.
Excellent.
You guys, so thank you. I've been honored to be on the Obsolete Gamer Show, and I'll see you guys on Thursday, okay?
All right. Thanks
You
again.
got it, man.
The man,
Bye-bye now.
the legend,
We're honored.
the legend
I'm
Walter
honored.
Day. Thanks again.
I'm on it. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Goodbye, world.